Yeah, good morning. My name is Nils Wollny, as you can read on my badge as well as on the slide up there. I'm Managing Director Strategy at SinnerSchrader. I joined SinnerSchrader almost 4 months ago. Before that time, I used to work for a classic advertising agency. And the last, more or less, 7 to 10 years, I was most of the time engaged in the topic of brand management and brand strategy. And when I joined SinnerSchrader, of course, before that time, I heard about the topic of service design, but I found an agency that is pretty much engaged in this topic and very, let's say, happy to try things out and work on this topic. And last year, I think there was the first service design that had a next service design conference that had was focusing more on the theoretical part of service design. And I think this year, with all the guests we have here, all the speakers we have, it's more focused on the practical part. So, and I was honored to, I was asked to give you a small or quick introduction into the topic of service design. And maybe we start with a question: who is absolutely clear about what's behind the term service design? Maybe you can raise your hands. Not so many, actually. I expected a little more, but that's good, because there is a lot of confusion out there when it comes to the term service design. And one of the funniest stories I've heard in the last weeks, one of my colleagues actually told me that they had some kind of service design summit with one of their clients, and they were inviting to the summit and asked the client to ask employees from the company to bring to the summit. And actually what happened, they brought people from service, meaning call center agents, and they brought designers. So I found this quite typical for the phenomenon. If you are not familiar with the term service design, what's behind there. And of course, service, you have specific pictures in your mind, specific tasks in your mind, and with design, the same thing. So basically, what helps is turning these two terms around, and we started to defining the word or the term service design more or less as the process of designing services. We found that a quite good start to explain what's behind service design. But of course, the term design and the term service itself still creates some confusion on the one or other point. So for design, we try to frame it a little bit more and saying, okay, there's a good quote actually explaining what's behind the term design in service design. Design is a plan for arranging elements in such a way as best to accomplish a particular purpose. It's a quote by Charles Eames, and it's very well describes what's behind the term design. When you think about service design in general, it's not just making things pretty, nice, beautiful. It's not just fashion or something. It's basically opening the field to everybody who is interested in the broader field of marketing, so that brand strategists can join the topic of service design as well. And on the other hand, if you think about service, to avoid that pictures pop up like there must be people from call centers or after-sales service involved in this thing, is like if you shift your expectation and say service is not just what most of the people think of when they think of service, but you think of service as a more broader and general thing, like there are no such thing as service industries, everybody is in service, is a quote from the 70s describing that even producing industries always have some kind of relation to the topic of service. And if you want to be a little bit more direct on this topic, you can say every product is a service nowadays. What do we mean by this? Every product is a service. Today there are many products out there that are more or less the same. You can compare them on the price level, on the product feature level, and they are quite similar. You can compare them via price search machines, and you say, okay, where's the difference? I buy the cheapest one. But if you think of a product as a service, there are chances actually to really add some value to products and say, okay, with the help of digital, we connect a lot of services around the product that are value adding, that actually enhance the product and its experience. And so all you need to do is basically think of your product as a service, not that it serves needs, but that you can connect further services to it. And digital plays a major role, as Matt has already said, and there are many famous examples out there. At most conferences and most talks, you always hear the same 4 big examples. You hear the Nike Fuel Band, you hear car sharing, you hear Amazon, and there are always the same examples saying, okay, they somehow managed it to enhance their product or product experience with the help of digital services, that they are perceived much more valuable to the people than other products. So, and the most famous quote in this context, I think, is, we don't think of the Kindle as a tablet, we think of it as a service. That's what Jeff Bezos said almost a year ago when they were launching the new Kindle. And that makes quite clear what's meant behind seeing products as services nowadays with the help of digital, because it's not just the physical product you buy, you always buy a whole ecosphere of services that are directly connected to it. And as Amazon is doing in the last month, they are adding services, adding services, adding services. And many people still say, okay, it's a retail company. Actually, it's not. It's a huge service company, and that's what makes them successful. So once again, if you think about the term service design, of course there is service in there and there's design, but it's more like creating valuable experiences that wrap around products. And basically it's a process, it's a method, but still it's not clearly defined. There are many people discussing about the topic of service design and ask themselves, okay, what's standing for? What is service design? What's not service design? And I think the question is not answered yet, but for us it's really like, thinking service design, thinking of service design as a process of designing services that create valuable experiences. And by doing this, one is should not focus on just single solution. It's more like building a whole marketing operating system, because no service is just a single service like we have an app or we have a service that enhances the purchase process. It's like connecting all these things and building wholly integrated systems that increase this experience in a positive way. So at SinnerSchrader, we start thinking about building whole marketing operating systems, not just platforms, not just applications, not just campaigns. And for me, as a brand strategist, it's very interesting because this process and the development that came up with the topic of service design basically changed the way and the meaning of brand development in general. And we see basically 3 major shifts, and they're quite interesting because they're not new, but service design definitely enhanced it or beschleunigt it, speeded it up. So you see there is shift number 1 from positioning to purpose. More brands need to define their purpose. What's actually their role in people's life? What's their reason for existence? And by applying service design methods, you are always forced basically to ask these questions. What's the role of the brand? And the second shift is like I said before, you're moving from single solutions. Okay, we have a problem here, how can we solve this problem? To fully integrated system and say, okay, how does this service solution, this idea, connect with other ideas, and how can we build basically a marketing operating system, a marketing OS? That's the third shift. And maybe the third and most important and most entertaining shift, basically, is that you produce less PowerPoint slides and move towards producing prototypes. And that's the fun part, actually, because you're not just talking about theoretical methods, saying, okay, we could do this, we could do that. Basically, service design speeded up the process that, you're more in the way building things, presenting it to clients, let them try it out and see how they basically react to this. You give it to customers, how do they react? And there is more this process of trying out, and that's a quite refreshing one, actually, for the topic of brand strategy. And since this is the focus of today, seeing many practical cases that had their experiences in the way of developing things, had their experience in the way customer interact with the solutions. I just keep it short and crispy in that sense and say, yeah, let's go. We see many, many inspiring things, hopefully, today. And I'm curious, we met at the speakers' dinner yesterday. There are some very, very, very good approaches and ideas out there. I'm very curious to see them today. Hopefully you have an inspiring day as well. And I speed it up so that at least the colleagues from the financial slot later on earned 5 minutes now, because they asked me yesterday, we have so many slides to show, we are so proud of our case, we need more time. So I try to win some time for you this morning. So yeah, enjoy the day, and talk to you during the breaks. So, yeah, thank you.